All right, welcome to the Fight for Resistance podcast. I'm your host, Uncle Fox, and today I'm in Windsor, California, and my guest today is Bernadette Smith. Bernadette, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
And can you tell us where we're at, this park?
Yeah, so we are at the Pleasant Grove Park here in Windsor. That will be renamed the David Smith Memorial Park on May 10th here in Windsor, California.
Oh, okay. Are they going to do any kind of anything new to the park?
Yeah, so actually they have a big renovation planned for the park. So first the renaming is going to happen, and over a course, I think the project is going to be within 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to renovate the whole park. They're going to implement native plants and signage in Pomo language for those plants.
Oh, wow, yeah.
They're going to redo the playground and implement different native basket designs within the play structure.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty much going to be dedicated to the native people here in the area.
That's going to be really nice. Probably have some dancing here too, right?
Yeah, it's definitely going to have spaces to hold gatherings here.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
It's very special. When did your dad pass away?
So he passed away last year. Let me see. I got to think of the date. I don't remember the exact day. It's such a hard time. I try not to remember the exact day. I can't even remember.
Well, I'm just asking because my father had passed away in March of 2023. And when they did a mural for him in Upper Lake, I don't know if you think like this, but I'm like, damn, I wish my dad was here so he could see this because he would love this. Like the things that they do for him today. I always think like, man, I bet too bad he's not here. I mean, I was like, God, I wish he was here to see this because he would love what they're doing for him. And I don't know if you feel the same way when they do these park,
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was thinking about what my dad would say if he heard the park. And I feel like he'd be like, why are they doing that? And it's like, he was so humble, so he never understood why people wanted to give him as much love and attention as he got, and he didn't think, it felt like he didn't really feel deserving of that.
Right.
I mean, whether that was his humbleness, but he definitely I would imagine he'd just be like, why, but that's just kind of how he was,
Yeah, I mean, he was very iconic. I remember just hearing his voice when we were dancing at Day on the Oak, and he, like I was saying before, like he had that rock man technique that no one's ever really heard before. And like I was saying before, like people are trying to mimic that sometimes, I feel like, but I feel like that he was the one that came out with that holding rock kind of technique.
Yeah, so he was inspired by his elders as well.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Frank, Sidney Parrish, these were his elders that he learned from,
mm-hmm.
and he took his cues kind of from on style.
Yeah.
But he also let us know that he incorporated his own. He pulled inspiration from his elders, but also embraced his own style and
mm-hmm.
Ways of doing it, which I know that he wanted future rockmen to kind of do the same. Like, you don't have to copy exactly, but find your style and incorporate things that you hear that you like, even from other Pomo rockmen. If you like something they do, it's okay to honor them in that way, but create your own style.
Yeah, he definitely had his own style, and like I always tell everybody, I moved to Arizona, but back in my day it was just your dad's group and our group, and so it's just very good to hear them sing. But now there's a lot of other groups out there, and I can tell which one's your group, because you keep that going. Is that something that you're trying to do right now? Yeah,
so, before my dad passed away, he was kind of, not as able to be holding rock as much as, of course, like he used to.
Yeah.
And that might have been one of the hardest things to watch, as far as seeing him be so vibrant and active in the dancing. As you know, or probably you can see within old videos as well, he was very interactive with the dancers as he was holding rock. Because he started as a dancer.
Right.
And so his first love was dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, he took on that new position. So that being said, keeping that same interaction with the dancers is something that I try to do. And sometimes it's hard to do that from the singer's standpoint.
Right.
But luckily I have my sisters who sing. We have other relatives who are learning as well. And I'm able to kind of interact with the dancers in that way. And I really think that was a beautiful thing and a very unique thing that my father was able to do.
Yeah, he did a really good job. And then so when we do our groups, I notice my speech is a little bit different when it's not big time. Like if you were to do a group, like if I were going to do like a school, I talk about why we dance and how we dance and the feathers. Then when there's big time, you really don't have that kind of speech. Do you do the same thing when you go out to other communities?
Yeah, definitely different communities that aren't within our own.
Yeah.
It's good to kind of explain what's happening, the different dances, why the dresses are, or the feathers are.
Yeah.
And just to kind of, educate.
Yeah.
And usually that's what we're there for, is to kind of educate in those positions. But also it's good sometimes at big times to explain what I'm realizing is where the songs come from.
Right.
Also, because like you said, there's other dance groups coming up. They're singing similar songs, not exactly the same, but you can tell where their influence was pulled from. So I'm thinking now a little bit more. What I try to do is kind of explain where the songs we're singing come from. And also sometimes even the regalia within itself needs to be explained, just to educate our own people who might not know. So I'm starting to see that some things are important to share within our own communities.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's more elaborate things we share with the outsiders.
It's good that you tell where your song's coming from, in case like I hear it, then I'll say, hey, that comes from there, And so that's good that you let them know where these songs come from.
Yeah, and lately I've been trying to embrace that same culture that my dad was doing, which was teaching.
Right.
And educating, but teaching our people songs. So I've been asked to come out and do that at different tribes and stuff. So at first I was a little hesitant, not knowing if I was even a person that was, I wouldn't say allowed, but had I didn't know if I had that kind of role yet in my community, was to be a teacher. I'm still fairly young. I'm 37, but in our way, that's kind of still young to be, knowing or teaching and stuff. But I found it a great opportunity to share the song and really teach about, like I said, where the song came from, let them know why you hear other people singing these songs and the importance of the value of the song. It's one thing to just learn the song and record it and start singing it on your own, but to really understand that before, that was a huge thing, a huge value that needed to be, I wouldn't say paid for, but there had to be some reciprocity given and taken for that valuable thing, which is that song. So being able to go out and teach and kind of talk about that has really been beneficial for me. And it's kind of been my anchor of, okay, this is what I should do. Yeah.
Yeah, because all this singing, like I was saying before, not everybody sings. And there's dancers, there's singers, there's rock men, so it kind of not, there's some people like your dad that can do it all. My dad can, but there's some, that can't. I know for me as a singer, I can't sing as great as my dad does. My dad had a falsetto voice. My grandfather had the same voice. They could sing, Dock of the Bay. They could, sing all these old school songs, and that's something I can't sing. So I learned to sing from the gut up and try to be as loud as I can, but also make sure I'm in tune.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes I hear groups and I feel like maybe they don't know that they need to be in tune or be in sync, and so it's good to hear the groups like your group that has that in sync voices.
Yeah, well, we definitely have, there's new singers coming in, and it's like you said, not everybody can be everything.
Right.
And I found that even true for myself, but it's really hard within our culture where we don't have a lot of people doing things that can take those roles for us. So we find ourselves kind of spreading ourselves thin throughout the dance group or, the different areas, even the regalia making, and things like that. So it gets a little bit overwhelming at times when you're trying to kind of cover all your bases.
Yeah.
But like you said, the singing can become more beautiful when people are in unison.
Yes.
And I really think that practicing together can be super beneficial. That's something that hasn't really happened within my dance group in a long time because everybody's just coming in from different areas. So it's been kind of hard, but even practicing with my own sisters, my sister has her own style of singing, and I have my style, and even my other sister has her style. So it's kind of hard to bring them all in. But what's good about that is we're all able to take lead on certain songs, and I like to work the drum. I like to play the drum.
Yeah.
And so, the hand drum isn't really traditional to our people, but it's been adopted in, and we use it quite often, especially when we dance outside of the roundhouse where our earth drums aren't there. So I like to play the drum, and it's hard to do that while you're singing.
Right.
Especially, and you have maybe limited space. But so when my sisters can come in and take the lead and I can do my thing, I find it a very powerful thing, playing the drum and really carrying that rhythm for everybody. It's a super important job, and I really like it. And I don't see too many women doing it, which isn't why I do it, but I always like to show the young girls there's lots of other things in the group that you can be a powerful piece in. That doesn't necessarily have to be singing. We have drumming, which is a super important thing. And then, of course, the dancing and, regalia making, things like that. Because
now that you bring it up, there's a lot of drummers that didn't sing. They just drum, which is good. But when I think about it, I couldn't drum and sing at the same time. Because, it's kind of like a band. I'm in back, I'm the drummer, and only certain groups can be the lead singer and a drummer. So that is pretty tough now that I think about it.
It's been done. I say I've done it, but like I said, that's when it's you have one mic or something like that.
Right.
And that's just another thing that it seems like we don't want to have a microphone, but it's just depending on the spaces that we're in. Sometimes we're in these really big open spaces, and those are needed, and
with the wind and stuff like that.
Yeah, the wind's going. We just had that situation happen to us in San Francisco. It was a beautiful venue and the place, and the dancers had a nice earth to dance on, but the singing was kind of hard because of the wind, and there was no microphones, and the space was so huge, But I'm sure people they still felt it, but it was still hard to get ourselves and dancers into that rhythm together because of that lack of sound. It's so integral, every piece to the dancers and the singers. We got to be able to feel each other, and sometimes in these big spaces it's hard to do that.
Because when we do the sitting down songs, that's where you kind of get your dancers in it, and if they can hear you, and things like that. So I think that sitting down songs are very important. That gets us going. Gets us going,
gets the tune, the singers in tune with each other, the dancers. It's beautiful. So when I was younger, we used to be we'd get ready while the songs were happening. So that was a beautiful thing, and we try to do that. It just depends. It depends on the space and the timing. As you know, things aren't always as available as we'd like. There's limited space, time, things like that. So
that's good. I mean, even I've seen the regalia classes. I really do like the dress making, because that's everyday wear back in the day. So sewing and getting your skirts together, I think that's very important to do. And I think when I talk about it, I always say, well, that's very important because it's also everyday wear, back in the day. So it's good for them to learn how to make their own skirts.
It's definitely a great skill, regardless of what you're wearing, what you're wearing it for. Also, just that patience. Things like that. They all have there's certain medicine that comes with learning, sitting and just being quiet with yourself and learning something and putting time into something. And what I see is these young girls who are creating these dresses, it really connects them to that, and it really forms a form of respect for the regalia, which it's super important. It's really important to be able to respect your dresses and keep them. I used to see girls, and I'm guilty of it. I never really made my own dress, and I'm kind of guilty of not taking care of them as well. And I think it was because of that. I never put that time into my dress, because I see some girls and they would keep them gold, and I used to I should treat my stuff that, because these girls, and I'm over here a seasoned dancer and stuff, and I just fold it and put it in my bag and go, and so over the years I've become more invested in really respecting my regalia in that way, even though I might have 20 different ones. Like, I think that's what it comes with too, you know? I have so many, so I'm like...
Right.
Yeah, so there's just different things. Even me, I'm learning and trying to do better every year, you know, trying to like get better at something.
Yeah, you're right about that, because I know when I started dancing, I mean, I started when I was little, but not really taking the regalia or the riggins. Like, I just throw my coat over there, and then I remember my cousin, he passed away a while back, but Ray Brown Jr., he got mad at me and said, hey, you need to fold those feathers up, you know, and he yelled at all of us. And ever since then, I remember like, okay, I got to fold these feathers up, put it away. And then when I started making it, then I was like, hey, put those feathers away right, you know?
Exactly.
Because now I know how much it takes to make those things.
Yeah, you really start respecting that. And I think that's what's super important and super great about the girls learning to make their own. Yeah. Is that, you know, that respect that they get for their materials and the dress itself. Yeah, so the regalia classes, I think, are going pretty good in the community. That's something that also my dad and Clarence did when I was little. Right. I remember going to regalia making classes, and those kind of fell off, but it seems like there's like this resurgence happening. Yeah. You know, whether it's more funding being, you know, given to tribes, which is needed to do those things. You know, it costs money to buy materials and that, you know, get teachers to come out. So I think it's beautiful what's happening, but it also gives a great teaching opportunity.
I think I've seen a video. I actually learned how to make a singing stick from one of your dad's videos. I mean, just, you know, when you know how to make something, but you see like them just, you need to see a little bit of it and catch on. And that's something that I've seen from your dad. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I was, you know, there's certain areas that I wasn't doing that he was doing. And I made like 4 or 5 sticks from that, you know, and so just having them learn just a little pieces really helps.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that's what I try to think about. Like, I might not be an expert at something, but if I know how to do it and I teach somebody else, you never know how they can take it and just thrive and like be good, you know. Even with something as small as I've taught a few girls how to French braid, and I'm not very good at it. I still can't do it very good, but these girls are like these beautiful braiders and they're braiding everybody's hair, and I'm like, man, I just showed them the first little stitch and then they just took it off, you know, and I can't even do it good myself. So that's what's good about being able to pass knowledge on. Sometimes even if you're not an expert at it yourself, you never know when you're going to put it in the right hands, you know, of that little girl who can just run with it. So I try to think about that too when I think, well, maybe I shouldn't be teaching this, or I don't really know this good enough to show somebody else. But so I still do, you know, I take that chance because I don't want to hoard anything. It gets me really, I get really scared about, you know, me passing on or something and suddenly, you know, like we've talked about a little bit, I lost 2 sisters. Yeah. So you never know when it's your time. And I've always been a little bit paranoid with that since my sister's passing and then my other sister passing. So I'm like, try to like get the info off as much as I can, because I'm like, I don't want to like leave and then not have anything, not contribute what I was supposed to.
That's a good way of thinking, especially because your singing is very unique. And I noticed like when I started singing too, is like, you really have to pay attention to the dancers when you're a singer, you know, and I always thought like, oh, I just sing and, you know, but I got to pay attention to, you know, with the dancers, are they tired? Do I need to make a speech so they can get their breath? Is that something that, you know, I don't think anybody really thinks about when they sing?
Yeah, it's definitely a relationship that happens between the singers and dancers, and as well as the rock man, you know, he primarily controls that part, and it's good for the rock to know when he's tired. Well, usually there's like kind of a set routine of how the dance goes, like 2 rises, the dancer should know it's going to be time to come home, you know? Right. So that's kind of how we do it. Like we sing 2 rises and our rock man will end the song and bring them home. But like we talked about as well, like there's always new dancers coming in and they don't know that's how it's going to go. Yeah. So that's what's kind of important about like having everybody in sync, because that's also medicine with it all happening together. It's a beautiful way, a beautiful thing. Yeah. And I think that part has been lost by these groups growing bigger and bigger and bigger. That's a beautiful thing as well. And I know for a culture that was on its way to possibly being, not as big as it is now. To see a lot of dancers is a beautiful thing, but there's also a sacredness in the synchronicity of it happening at the same time.
Right.
Everybody doing it together at the same time. So there's always these pros and cons that kind of go with, teaching and seeing lots of dancers, and you find the beauty in that, but you also want to remember like why things were the way they were as well.
Yeah. Because when you dance, like if you're dancing with someone, if you dance with your sisters, you know exactly left and right which way they were going or which way, how fast they were going. And so when you get them all together, it takes a while to get them together.
When I was little, when I was young, we tried to go like all the girls go to the left, to the right, to the left at the same time, it'd be like, I don't know, let's just say like 3 steps back to the right, then turn 3 steps, dance to the left, 3 steps,
Yeah.
Like that. Nowadays it's like everybody's doing their own thing, and that's beautiful within itself. Like everybody's feeling it, they're doing their own thing. But when I was little, we were kind of more trained to think about it being like together, and if one of us was off, I remember telling like my sister, I'd be like, you weren't doing it right, like you were off. So it was like almost like a routine that we were doing. And like I said, there's beauty in that, and that everybody knew exactly what they were doing, and they were doing it together.
Right.
And I think that there must, I can only speculate that it was a reason for that.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Because when I was thinking back, like when we dance, it was always a sync together, like you were saying. So there's always reasons for the things that we were doing, but I never really asked. I just know like this is how we're doing it. So like when we do it today, which is beautiful, a different way. Again, like I always tell everybody, like, and you've kind of fallen in that category too, where we're kind of blessed the way we were raised, the families that we're in. So I don't want to take it for granted and say, oh, you guys doing things differently. No, it's the way you were taught, and maybe this is something you want to do. And I try to not to like, say, oh, that's not how we do it, or that's not how we used to do it. You know what I mean? And that's something I gotta always try to keep my mouth, like, make sure I'm respectful.
Yeah. Well, this is what I try to think. Like, there's probably elders that look at me and say that same thing. So they're like, you don't sing like I remember. Our singers used to sing, or the way it was. And so I always try to keep that in mind too. It's like, we're not a dead culture. We're living. So we will continue to change, and things will continue to come and go, and that's just how life and culture works. But it's great to remember, hold on to the old way. Like, don't let that way go, don't start anew, just respect that old way, hold on to it as long as you can. And
that's something that we try to do too, and with my kids, and teaching them how to dance and sing. But when you're singing, where did you learn how to sing from? Like all your songs, like, is that something you've always heard for all your life? Because it's kind of like the way I learned. It's just from dancing and hearing it all my life.
Yeah, definitely from that. So my sister Delia Smith, she was she started singing with Clarence. So Clarence is my idol, my inspo, my number one. Like, he's my favorite singer. So so listening to him and the songs that he sang, those are definitely what I would say the songs I grew up hearing, like dancing as a little girl, hearing those songs. And it was strange that it wasn't until my sister Delia had asked me to help her out and sing that I realized that I've been dancing to these songs my whole life. And my whole life, I meant 15 years at the time. It was 15 years. And I didn't know the right way to sing them. Like, I couldn't sing it on my own, even though I've heard it and danced it for all those years. So it took a little bit of like sitting down with her and learning the pronunciations of the words and how it really went, and when the change happened. And so it took a while to get going. And also it was kind of a hard thing to do, to sing on your own when she was gone. It was hard to do that, like to have the courage, to sing out. And you heard a lot of people, like, at that time, like, they expect you to be good, you know, because you're Dave's daughter or something. And it's a lot of pressure.
You're right. Because like Clarence, he could sing. I could see Clarence singing solo. I could see my dad singing solo. I could see your dad singing. But I told my cousins, man, when you get out there and you sing a shakehead solo, it's tough. Like, and so you just got to get used to your own voice. You only got one rock man, and that's something that takes a while to practice. And
the longevity.
Yeah, right.
Learning how to not throw your voice out. I was screaming for the first 5 years, I'd say. So loud, thinking that was what was,
the louder the better.
The louder the better. And I'm like, now I hear old videos, I'm like, oh my gosh. But I was young, and I'm still what I would consider a young singer, So I'm still learning, and I'm like, I can't wait till I'm like an old elder, and like they'll appreciate me. They'll be like, oh, Bernadette. I'm like, okay, good.
Oh, she's an elder.
I got 20 more years to go. But I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to seeing new young singers come out. And Coastal Pomo women are one of the only groups that have women singers. And you see that now in different areas because we taught, went out and taught other tribes songs and stuff. So you'll see women singers, I think, like over in Redwood Valley. You'll see that happening. Coyote Valley. Well, they're kind of close, but, just like not coastal. Yeah. So that being said, that being spread, that like women have a position to sing and hold a position, it kind of, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I think that women, like my sister, she'll drum if she has to. I think like you and my sister and all my cousins from ELM, they really can step in and drum and sing if they have to. I mean, they'll get out there. And I always tease my sister and my cousins. I've seen them dance like they'll mimic men shake head. I see, and so my sister be like, "I'll slap it on if you need me to,"
Yeah.
So I feel like the women do know how to do everything. It just it's the area.
Yeah, and that's one thing over in Lake County, and I really can't speak for it because I don't know that much about it. But you guys have a lot of singers. You're not in really need of women to do that.
Right.
Like over here, like in Point Arena, we don't have an abundance of anything like singers and dancers. We have very few families that do practice still like often.
Right.
And so it's not like people think Point Arena. I think they think Point Arena and they think culture, like tradition, thriving there. And that's a great reputation to have. But unfortunately, it's just not that way. Like there's Clarence's family and then my dad's family. And then there's some other families that sometimes do or maybe used to do before and don't do it now. And that can come from who knows why, different things that happen within our communities, politically.
Right.
Just has all these different reasons of why these families maybe don't participate anymore as much as they used to, should I say. But so it's like, it's hard to come by singers. It's hard to come by rock men. We're having a hard time filling that space even within our group.
Right. Yeah, the rockman is, like you said earlier, rockman kind of controls everything, so it's really hard to find a good rockman. I know, like, my dad was good at it. My Uncle Jim is good at it. I think my cousins are really good at it too, but it is hard to find a good rockman.
Yeah, it's hard, and there's a few out there that are pretty good. I mean, I'll just name drop. Tony Still, I think, is a really good one, and he's coast, so that's good. And my dad worked with him, when he was first coming out and starting and wanting to learn. Yeah. And I think he just really has that deep tone that's important for a rock man. Yeah. So as far as coast there, of course, we want to give a shout out to Connie Carrillo, a woman rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's, I've listened to some videos or recordings from when she was a young girl. She has came a long way, over the years with her rock. And, she had to for Clarence because he needed a rock. Yeah. His voice is too beautiful to not share. And so she stepped into that position to help him out, which, that's cool. Like, that's hard to do. And I've heard women rock on some old videos as well from like way back Kashaya. And they do their thing, they don't take the whole song, but they do, and they switch with their partners to, the men will sing and the women will rock. So that's definitely not just a men's thing, but if a woman had to, like Kashaya women, we're kind of known for stepping into that place and doing what we have to do, you know.
And that's what I was saying. Like, I feel like my sister and my cousins, they can step in, and they always tease like, I can slap it on too if you need me to, you know. And they joke around like that, but I'm sure they can because I've seen them, you know, mess around and dance like at a birthday party, joke around, dance like a nail shake head, like, oh, you can't do this, you know. And so it's funny that they, you know, they just like to say those kind of things about, you know, if you need me, I'll be there, you know, stuff like that, like jokingly. But yeah, I feel like women can do most all those roles. Yeah,
they can. And we also have the other important roles like cooking and setting the table. And that's my role right now in the Manchester Point Arena Roundhouse there. Like I'm what they call a head waitress.
Okay.
So that's an old position that just got brought back with me. And that's just about like making sure the people have the food, making sure the table's set, making sure the young women that are there, that are from our tribe, are ready to serve and you know, get things ready. And that position it's very important. And I didn't really know too much about it, but it's just something I did naturally.
Yeah.
You know, like for years since I was a young girl, like helping set the table, helping get the stuff ready. And I really just like, you know, knew the importance of that, the meal sharing at ceremony. My dad had always taught us that was just as important as the dancing, as the prayers. That meal sharing with everybody is solidifies that whole ceremony happening.
And all ceremonies for Pomos is seasonal. So you guys had the strawberry, right?
Strawberry. Yeah, that's our big one. That's our main show. So yeah we really go all out for that. And so that's where I got to really, this year was the best year because I barely was set into that position last year. And my dad was really happy to hear about it because he was like, you know, he knew the importance of that waitress position. So he was really proud. So every year since that, I just really try to give like 110% to the table for my dad, you know.
And do you have a lot of people that come for that?
Yeah, we do. We have, I would say maybe like 75, 80 people, maybe more. Feels like more. But we all squeeze in the roundhouse. Sometimes I feel like there's no way we're going to fit in here. And somehow Creator just makes space and everybody's, you know, in there. So it's amazing. And even with the food, like sometimes it feels like we're not going to have enough.
Yeah.
But somehow Creator just spreads it out like everybody eats. Sometimes it's like bare pans, but it's gone, you know? And everybody's...
You have enough.
Yeah. So when I see that, like these kind of like magic things happen, it really shows me like, wow, like Creator is going to take care of it. Like even though I'm stressed about it all day and it's like, I'm hoping it's going to be enough and praying it's going to go good, like he takes care of it. And if you put your like dedication and hard work and real pure, you know, it's got to be pure.
Right.
He'll take care of that for you.
Yes. And things will go right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other, what else is kind of big for you, like during ceremony season, like, or even like big times, like, because I know for us, one of us used to be was Day in the Oak was one of the things that we used to before.
Yeah, Day in the Oaks was huge. So right now, everybody looks forward to like Chasse.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like a huge one that I remember even as a young girl, like that's what we looked forward to. Seeing everybody, kicking it with all like the Miwoks and getting, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so that was fun and that's a good one. And even seeing like all Lake County come in and do their thing, you know. Yeah, so that one, that's still the main one, I would say.
I haven't been there in a while, but I remember it pretty big.
Yeah.
But I do like the, when you do like, you get called out to like museums or exhibits, those are pretty fun too, because you kind of explain a little bit more, like I was saying, about your culture and your group.
Yeah, definitely. When I was young, we went to the Smithsonian in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of my great-grandmother's and grandfather's baskets is in there. It's like the largest Pomo basket. Like somebody can sit in it. They have it on display at the museum there. So they invited my dad to come out and dance because they were going to be bringing out the baskets as an exhibit.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I was about 12. And it was fun, you know. And we had all new dresses made, all new top knots. Everything was like, man, it was a good one. And it was so memorable, to be there and watch my dad like explain. They brought in all these schools, a huge packed auditorium.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And my goal is to get my kids back there, like our dance group, to go like dance for those baskets again and connect back with those baskets. So that's kind of like the goal that I'm working toward right now, is getting us back over to that Smithsonian Museum so we can touch those baskets and dance and share song for those baskets again.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because the Pomo baskets are beautiful. I think the coast and Lake County, the Pomo baskets are just amazing. And, and it seemed like we did a lot of trading together too, and so they're really nice out there in that museum.
Yeah, we have lots of, I don't know about lots of songs, but there's some songs I hear similar coastal and Lake County songs.
Right.
Some start a little slower, then go faster, and then and then there's that one, I think like your slow two-step song. Yeah, like it's similar,
Similar to yours, yes.
Yeah, which I always want to sing your guys'. I'm like, is that allowed? No, I'm just kidding. But so that's a good one,
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I'm glad you guys do that, I don't know how to say it, but your beat is different than our beat. So every time I hear your beat, I like it because you guys never change it. It's always the same, that double beat, I guess I would say.
There it is,
And we don't have that on our side.
Yeah, you guys are like straight beats, is what I call you guys.
Right.
Yeah, and those are hard, like for us, like you can't do that bounce like we're used to, or I'm used to, like this little like bouncing. When I'm dancing, you guys is just like straight, like you just gotta be like pounding the floor, But it's beautiful, and we love hearing your guys' songs. We love Lake County. We really admire the work of you guys about keeping your traditions going, and you guys never wavered from that.
I think we were kind of somehow connected. I mean, because we had like a guy named Fred Bogus that was from Manchester that lived on Elam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we have like my great-great-grandfather, Jim Brown. He's the first Brown.
Okay.
That was born in Manchester. Because our great-great-aunt was living out there at the time from Elam.
Oh, so we're cousins.
Yeah, like somewhere around there. Why was they over there? You know what I mean? And things like that. Because on his birth certificate, it does says Manchester.
Oh, okay.
So, so I always tell my dad, somehow, like, we traded a lot between each other, like, just close in us, because we have a lot of, like, similar connections, similar songs, and so Regalia is almost similar.
Yeah. I was trying to explain a little bit about the difference in Regalia to some of our kids about how the coast horns look and how Lake County they do a certain the side ones, and just so they know, because I don't know if they're being taught like those little things that we just think everybody might know, so it's really important for me to even get that knowledge myself. I'm still learning. I'm still a student. I'm still always listening to elders, and sometimes not even this information don't have to come from elders to be good, useful information. We have a lot of people, peers, even younger kids that are studying and can let us know. So I'm always open and willing to learn and even change things if I have to, if I'm not doing it correctly.
That's why you brought up the horns, because someone did. I make horns for our tribe, and someone asked me, "Hey, can you make some horns for us?" And it was like, I said, well, what kind of horns do you want? They're like, oh, we're coast. Like, I said, I don't make coast horns. I would love to, but I feel like maybe you should ask somebody from the coast, because that's not my style of doing things. I mean, maybe you could learn on that side, because it's just two different things. I've learned how to make mine. I don't want to make something that, unless someone from there had taught me that. You know what I mean? Other than that, I can't make your coast. I love the way the coast horns look, but I can't make it, I told him. So that's something that you brought it up, like, the horns are different.
Yeah. I watched my dad make them. That was one of his favorite things to make, was the horns. And he did some beautiful work and beautiful horns. And I wish that, like, those kind of things that I wish I would have paid attention to more. But when I was younger, and even now, like, my dad didn't really show us the boy stuff. He had all girls. So except I have one brother, but he didn't show us any of that.
Right.
So he just basically too, he'd have our dresses made. We didn't have an auntie that was making or to sit us down. My dad was kind of, and it's again what I was saying earlier, is like you have so much to do that it's hard to do everything. You can't do everything. So we were kind of just lucky to be there and watch him, do what he was doing, which I think just that knowledge itself is so much.
Yeah, him making that, he made all his own stuff, his singing stick, and things like that. I've never, so to see him do all that stuff, I was like, wow, man, this guy does it all, at the time.
Yeah, and I was watching some old archive videos. They were never put out, but they were just done by UC Berkeley. So they gave me the raw footage from stuff from way back when my dad was a child.
Yeah.
And he was doing all the things he always told us about, but I'm like, I never knew, I'm like, there's no way you could have been doing all this stuff. Like, I don't know if he was just, I don't know. I didn't really, I don't want to say I didn't believe him, but it was hard to imagine him doing all this stuff. And I was watching these videos, and there he was, like, pulling a net in the stream with Sidney Parrish, and like they made the sticks and made the net, and I'm like, whoa, like he really was doing all this stuff that he talked about, and even like doing the acorn grinding and underground cooking with the elders. He was fetching the water, doing these little jobs, but still right there witnessing it, So he was so full of knowledge. And it's still really hard for me to think of him being gone, even though like earlier, like I don't even like to think of the day or the time or the month or that he passed away. Honestly, I try not to think about it, because for me, he's still with me so much that I don't look at that day,
When we did when my dad passed away, I was like, okay, we're gonna do a podcast about my dad. We're gonna do this, and I still can't do it. Like I try, but I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to talk about. I think about him all the time, but it doesn't mean, because I don't talk about it, doesn't mean I'm not thinking about him. It's just too hard for me to talk about him out loud.
Yeah.
And so that's something I just keep to myself until I'm ready to talk about him. Because like you said, like I feel like he's still here. Like he's still here while I'm in Arizona. He's up in Lake County still, and I just try to think like that all the time about him.
Yeah. And for me, like keeping his spirit alive is super important to me. Like seeing my son, he's been trying to hold rock and learning and taking that position, and I prayed for that, and I named him David, and I always dreamed like maybe my son would be able to do this, and he's finally been coming out, and he's been doing it, and I listen to him, and sometimes he will hit a note that is just like my dad, and I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, I just want him to like embrace that and know like that's who his people are, and that's, he comes from this great man, that everybody idolized as far as for his rock,
Oh yeah, he was big. I mean, I would say like almost like maybe Hollywood kind of style. Like he
loved that, man. He was a showboat. And he loved that, and that was part of, he was left the toto, he was left the feather dance, and as you might know, like the feather dance was before Big Head. So that's a very sacred thing, an old thing, and for them to entrust him to carry it on and to keep it alive, was a huge responsibility that he took very seriously. And he struggled throughout his life. He was far from perfect. And he would tell me like, like I'm not somebody to hold up in that regard. Like I'm just a man, and I just doing what I was, taught to do. And he suffered, he suffered for his things that when he fell by the wayside when he was younger doing things, he fell into alcoholism and all those things that a lot of our people fall into. But because of that spirit that he was left within him, he was able to find his way out and way back. And even as an older person, he still struggled and had issues, but he never ever doubted the Creator and the Spirit with our dances. And he turned to our dances for healing.
Yeah, he had a lot of good videos on YouTube. Just to listen to him talk about acorn and things like that is something that was he was very knowledgeable. And I always thought he was just a rock man, all growing up, until I seen all the other stuff he was doing. I was like, oh, no, he does more than that,
Yeah, so he was amazing. And, he took political science in college, and that's kind of work that he wanted to do, was to kind of change and help move along Native rights, So, even like the right to practice, our religion was something that was fairly new even as he was a young boy, so he grew up in a different era that where practicing our traditional ways wasn't even allowed.
Right.
So he's still part of that trauma, So he was always fighting to move forward the people, even by taking over the Yakeyama territory there, just different things he did politically, So he was kind of in all these different areas of Native progression. Yeah, but he specialized in the cultural part, obviously, but...
Yeah, he was really good. Like my dad, he told me that... he knew your dad at the Santa Rosa JC. So that's where they had met. And so my dad was the same way, like, fighting for rights. They took Alcatraz and they did all these things. And so us trying to like keep that going.
Oh man, it's hard.
It's rough, and like when my dad passed, I found a lot more stuff that he was doing, like, oh man, he didn't tell me he was doing all that, and he wouldn't say too much what he was doing.
Yeah, that's exactly like my dad. Like I found out a lot of things about him after he passed away that he just didn't share those things. Like they weren't part of. I mean, for him, they were not huge deals that I'm like, these are huge deals, these are big things that you should have been, letting us know. But, so it's beautiful just to think about my dad's life, even starting as a little boy. He grew up in a sanitarium for the first 5 years.
Oh,
he
wow.
had tuberculosis,
like
a lot of the native people in that time.
Right.
So he grew up in a hospital, for 5 years, and he wasn't expected to live. A lot of his siblings passed away. He was the youngest of 18 kids.
Oh, wow.
And I only knew 3 of his siblings. They were all gone before I was even born. And a lot of them died before the age of 16 from tuberculosis and other diseases that were, nowadays those are treatable and common. But back then, which isn't 100 years ago, this isn't hundreds of years ago. This is...
Right.
I'm just the next generation of that, which is scary to think that,
That's what I always tell everybody. Like, for us, like, racism was not that long ago. Like, it wasn't that far. Like, people dying, like, us losing our language, that's not that far. It's only 100 years ago, really. You know, like, so it's something that we still carry on and something that we hold on to, that we're trying to, get our culture going and keep it alive because of all that.
Yeah, it's a very scary thing to think about what could have been. But luckily we have people like our fathers, right, that work to keep that going for us and for the future and future generations. Now it's up to us to kind of foster what that's going to look like, because we're eventually going to be in those positions where we can we're going to be those elders eventually. Hopefully, Creator, please, I want to live. But, hopefully we're able to do that. But, we got to be ready for that. And that's a huge responsibility. Right. So, like I said, I'm always learning. I'm always trying to make myself better, do something better for the next year, set that intention for myself. Yeah.
That's when you brought up earlier, though, that's how my dad was saying with Shakehead, like, or, Toto dance, like, that was very important. And then the Big Head came. So, like, my Uncle Nelson and some of my other elders, they didn't really care about the Big Head. It was more of the Shakehead, like what we're doing today. Like, that was the most important thing at the time. So, like, when you brought up just now, Big Heads kind of came in later, but Shakehead is the one that was the main dance. Yeah,
and, that being left to my dad, I feel like, okay, so that's where I come in, and I got to do my best to make sure that things are taught in a good way and the best way, and I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like and what that means for me, in my life. Going to different places and singing, that's one thing, but how am I really going to preserve the meaning of these things and what they're really meant for? But I always try to tell our dancers, like, even our young girl dancers, like, when you guys go out, think of somebody you want to pray for. Like, set intention for this dance each time. Not just we're not just looking pretty and doing a great job doing that. You guys are all doing a beautiful job, looking beautiful. But really set intention each time. I try to do that even for myself, like set intention for what my dance is going to be dedicated to.
That's a good way of thinking. Yeah.
Because that's what it's for, I mean, that's what I believe. It's a spiritual thing. It's a fun dance, but then again, we know that coming together and having fun is a medicine within itself.
Yeah.
And a powerful one. You know, laughter and bringing good energy can heal people even in their ailments, you know?
And that's what I was talking to my cousin about. I really like the term that, you know, energy, because energy, when you tell youth, they understand that, because, you know, you could walk into a room and feel bad energy or good energy. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to be, you know, anything, but you could feel energy. And that's always something that I always tell my cousin, like, we gotta pay attention to is energy. Like when we do the dances, like your dance, when you sing, that's good energy, and you could feel the crowd, good energy, you know, and things like that. And that's something that we need to, you know, talk to our youth more about, is the energy. Because, you know, we got energy drinks, we got coffee, we got all this stuff. So they know about energy.
Yeah,
and that's something they could relate to.
And they know about vibes right now. Right. Vibes is a big thing. They know about vibes, they know about energy. Yeah. And, you know, that's all what it's about, is creating those good vibes and energy within that space and that circle. And if we can feel it and generate that, then we you know, push that out, and the people feel it. And that's what we want them to feel. We want them to feel something when they see this, not just that it looks good, you know, that maybe for the museum shows, like, you want them to see, like, your tradition is alive still, not just in these glass cases, but this is something real. But we want our own people to feel that energy, and that's really what I dance for and sing for. It's for our people first and foremost. You know, it's to share knowledge as well. But when I sing, I'm singing for our people, and I want them to be proud, and I want them to, you know, really connect with it and feel like I want to do that, or I want my kids to do that, you know, to make it look like something they want to be around or involved in, that makes them feel good. Yeah. And
then I feel like you try to carry this on for your dad and your sisters also at the same time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, if I can talk about my sister Nicole. So, so my sister Nicole Smith was murdered in Manchester in 2017.
I remember that.
So it was actually in my home on the Manchester reservation that it happened at. So it was unexpected, and it's unsolved case. The police haven't, you know, had any.
They haven't done
real
anything
leads.
else.
Yeah, no real leads. We have asked them over in the Mendocino County Sheriff's Department for some updates, but they've been radio silent for a few years now. Yeah. And we kind of came to terms that maybe we just weren't ready for the truth to come out. You know, maybe it's going to be something that's going to really hurt us or really, you know, open a new can that we're not ready for. So I kind of gave it to Creator and just let him deal with that and do it in his own time.
Do you think that the police kind of didn't try as hard, or you just think there's just not really wasn't much leads?
Well, I think the police definitely didn't try as hard, but as I try to, like, not be so angry, I try to, like, not think like that, but it's just so much, like, statistics show that that's just the reality.
That's what happens.
Yeah, it's just the reality. That's what's happening. And you know, there's opportunity, and the only time they seem to really give anything up is if they're pressured. Yeah. And it's hard to get that pressure. Like,
we got a small group of
group of people. It's hard to get that. And I'm grateful that the movement with trying to get Khadijah Britton's information out, the young girl who went missing from Covelo, who's still missing. Yeah. They were able to press the department to give them answers, at least something sort of like how many hours they spent on the case, how many people they interviewed, how many cars they searched. That's the type of thing our family would be grateful for. It's just some answers, not about who did it, but about what you guys are doing, you know? That's pretty much, like, at this point, that would help us out to make us feel like her life was not even, was considered by you guys as something. Yeah. Because she was a traditional dancer. She had 3 children. You know, she was a big support system for myself. And so her passing wasn't just the loss of just a regular woman. Like, our Native women carry so much medicine within them. And so when she passed away, it was a huge loss.
It's a huge loss in the community for any Native.
And for my dad, you know, to have to go through that. And also when my sister Delia Smith was ran over, the guy who hit her, he didn't pay anything. He didn't go to jail. the insurance company tried to mark my sister's death a suicide. That she jumped in front, you know, and they ran her name through the mud in court because we tried to fight because he had insurance and we had a lawyer that kind of, I don't know what he did. He came and found us and told us, look, like this guy had insurance and all this crazy stuff. Anyway, so long story short, they marked my sister's death as she was just a, you know, substance abuse user, you know, and she didn't really matter. And so they gave, I think, her kids $1,000 each.
Yeah.
So if you can put a price tag on the value of a Native woman's life to these people, that was it, you know? Wow. And that's what I'm saying. It's like the value. She's taught me these songs. She sat with me, worked with me, showed me, you know, and not just showed me how to sing. She like uplifted me. Yeah. You know, like I can know all the songs, but if I'm too shy or not confident, like I wouldn't have did it. But she was like motivating and like, you're so good, like keep going, you're learning it. And like these really beautiful things that an older sister should do. She was doing it. So I'm like, I'm over here teaching young girls. I'm over here sharing this medicine. Her life was definitely so valuable. Yeah. You know, but they just considered her nothing because she was Native. And the same thing happened with my sister Nicole. You know, just that she just must have been involved in some kind of gang activity, which was not true at all, or some drug activity that was not happening, you know, so they just didn't really care.
Wow. And then when you do I've seen you like go to the Capitol, right, with MMIP or MMIR, and is there like, because I know there's some states that there's some communities that trying to pass a bill for MMIP. Is that something like would be good for us or here in California?
Oh yeah, so Assemblyman Ramos had passed a bill to get more funding for departments in California, and possibly even their own department specializing in MMIW or MMIP. So that is in the works, and that's happened, although it's not as much as it's supposed to be. And this is like red feather alert, things like that. I don't know if you heard about that. So that's like if a Native girl goes missing. So a lot of that was focused around the missing part. Okay. Not really the murdered part is a different kind of thing, you know. Okay. Yeah, so we're still working on getting some more funding for these police departments, because that seems to be their big problem that they're saying is lack of funding.
Funds. Okay.
Yeah.
Staff and funding, maybe.
Yeah. So we're hoping to get departments out that, I mean, people specializing in Native women cases to kind of get, and the funding go directly to that, not to the department within itself. Right.
Yeah, because there's a lot of missing Indigenous people, women. Yeah. And there's not really no people trying to find these.
Yeah, and it's definitely has to go back with systemic racism. I try not to think about that, but man, it's so true. And I don't know if this is even true, but this is how I think. It's like we believe in our ancestors standing with us. You know, Native people believe that our ancestors walk with us, that they guide us. It's hard to think that the white man's family ancestors don't do the same with them, and they're full of like this, not in a good way, like they're still surrounded by their ancestors and people too, and their ancestors weren't good to us, so that is still there, whether we want to think, I don't believe that only our ancestors are here, I think if our ancestors are here, everybody's ancestors might be here, and if, that's kind of scary, so I think like systemic racism is still very much alive, especially in Mendocino County. Like we live in a predominantly white area, and so there's lots of excuses that they use of why, what help they need, and a lot of it's lack of funding. And then of course rural areas, we live in such remote areas where cops can't really get there that fast, right? So like when my sister Nicole was murdered, they took over an hour to get there. Wow. When I had to sit, but one beautiful thing that I gotta say about the teachings of my dad and our people is when my sister was there and I sat there with her, I was able to grab our traditional medicine. I grabbed my Hi Butta Butta, and I sang her going home songs right there. Right. And it comforted me. Yeah. It was for her, but being able to have something to like kind of focus my energy on besides being like, what just happened here, I was forever grateful for that.
Right.
For my dad teaching us those songs, and even for our ancestors having those songs for us in those times. And that's kind of the message that I like to say at those MMIW like rallies, is to make sure that we know like our traditional songs and things that can comfort us in these times, because those are what's going to heal us even after these tragedies happen. We need to find strength to continue on in a good way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think, because like you said, like our dads really believe in that. And so I know when my dad was passing away, he kind of was singing, you know, a little bit, and it was like he was going to go home or something. And that's when I thought, man, he really, like, it's real, you know what I mean? Because he's doing it toward the end of his life.
Yeah.
And so I that really opened my eyes too. But like you were saying, it's just like, wow, man, this is something powerful that, you know, we don't realize it, you know, until towards our end of our lives.
Of course. Yeah. And I seen my dad, you know, look to his medicines for pain relief. You know, he'd be in these huge fits of pain from his neuropathy in his feet, because he had his feet removed, half of each foot. And it was a painful thing to watch. You know, no medication, no pain medicine was going to help. Like, it wasn't, you know, it was beyond that.
Yeah.
And so he'd had his Wayapano, and he'd put it on him, and he'd get pepperwood leaves and like pray over his own self and like to get the pain away. And I've seen him like calm himself. And it was so hard to watch my dad be in pain like that. Like, and he couldn't do nothing, you know? But watching him turn to our traditional songs and medicines and witnessing it relieve him was like a huge gift that he didn't even know he was giving me.
Yeah.
Was to know, like, if I ever was in this same way, that's like the Western medicine is good, but there's something else that could take the edge off if that ain't doing it anymore, you know? So yeah, it was a beautiful thing. Although it was painful to watch him in pain, there was some beautiful lessons even that he was teaching within his death. You know?
Yeah, the energy, like you were saying, like my dad, he was doing the same thing. Like he'd rather get blessed than go take chemo. You know, like he'd rather go to medicine man and get prayed for, because he doesn't want to do the chemo or anything like that, because chemo just kind of kills your body. And so he was really looking at that area until he caught pneumonia, and that made him go faster. But he was going that way too. He was going to his plants and, you know, the tea that we have. He was going that way at the time. Yeah. And so he really believed he really believed in all his ways, our way. Yeah. Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was a beautiful thing to see him do that, like know all that.
Yeah. So I understand. And I know it's hard, like, to talk about our dads like that, because like I said, you know, like I try not to, but I always try to also think of like the beautiful things that he left, and even in his death, like watching him turn to that and hopefully find comfort. He was still scared, you know, but he knew what was waiting on the other side, you know, and he was calling out to his ancestors. I knew they were in that room with us, and it was a little bit scary. Like, you never know, like you hope this is the right thing. Like we believe in this, but when it's all showing itself to you, it's like surreal. Yeah, you know?
Right. That's a little scary. Like my dad too was in the hospital, and he was kind of like waving people in. There's nobody at the door. I was like, oh man, like, okay, you know, I was kind of, you know, it was coming, you know, and I thought, oh well, you know, someone's here for him, you know, and so I didn't know who it was, and he wouldn't say who it was, and I kind of had a little bit of comfort, you know, when he was doing that. So I feel like he's going to be okay, you know. But you know, as we go on with the group, what is something that you're looking for your group, like, to build on?
Yeah, so definitely
like for your dad, right now.
For my dad, yeah. So I'm hoping that we can get my son or any other guy out there ready to rock.
Yeah.
You know, that's an important piece of the dance. So that's something that I'm hoping we're able to find, that Creator will bless us with that. Or even if it is my son, you know, right now he feels like he's just filling a space until something comes along. But he, you know, if it's him, then it's him, which I'm like, but you know, so that's kind of the direction we're looking for. My sister Natalie, she is a beautiful song holder too, so she likes to bring out some songs that maybe were suppressed for a while. So she's really good at that and catching those songs. And it also gives me an opportunity to do other work as far as, drumming and dancing. I love dancing. That's my favorite. That's where
my comfort zone too.
Yeah, that's my comfort zone is dancing. And I would love to get back out on the dance floor myself. Even when my dad was here at the last song, I'd dance out with the girls, or maybe a show off. I'd jump out from the singing line and over there. So that's something I'd like to see more for myself. And, so also bringing back a few of the traditions, like closing out the dance when we dance, even if we're in a public space, like bringing them together to do, I don't know what exactly they call it when we go like, right. So bringing that, like that's something that my dad always would do. And that's something that sometimes we don't have time for, or we think we don't have time to bring the dancers back out to do that. But those are just like little things that I want to honor what my dad did by like making sure we set time for that, like making that part of it regardless of time constraints or something like that, so just little things like that, like that I remember us always doing when I was young.
Kind of going back to
to like the roots of what I remember. Even something as small as like the footwork of the girls, like things that I remember them saying, this is how you do like the certain step for this dance. Like I see that doesn't really happen. So I've been like thinking like, okay, I'm going to really start like letting the girls know, like this is how it goes, like,
right.
But I'm still trying to find that good way of saying it.
Yes.
But my little cousin had told me something, which it kind of stuck out good to me with Chun. He said, if you say it with love, out of love, it'll come out like that.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, and that's really like, that's all I needed to really hear. I was like, okay, that's true. If and it wasn't something he was telling me. We're discussing something else about somebody else. But I like to think in that way for me when I'm trying to tell the girls like how this step traditionally goes, and that's what I try to let them know. Like, I'm not saying this is the only and right way, but traditionally this is how that step went. And that's how I'd like to see it done.
And I seen like all the songs, and it's your songs and our songs, it's in sync, right? So like there's always a song, and then there's another song right after that you always sing. And I feel like sometimes, especially not your group, but I'll hear groups singing their songs out of sync, and I'm hoping that they'll find out that all those songs that you sing and that we sing are all in sync. There's the beginning song, middle songs, then there's the ending songs. You can't mix those things up.
There's definitely, and my dad would announce like to the boys, like they knew like these ones are going to be libu libu, he'd say. So that was like whistle dance songs coming next. And then of course he'd say like the deer one, they knew what that one was going to be. A hummingbird. So definitely there's all those different stages of progression throughout the dance that would happen. Everything stayed like in a certain order. So that's another thing that's kind of, you see people don't know, but it's up to us to really to let them know, or else they're just gonna keep going all crazy. Like I should have said something about the dancing a long time ago. I'm like, I let it go too long, and now it's just everywhere. Like okay.
When you mention it now, I remember you guys in sync. I remember the ladies in sync, and now when you bring it up, now I see them all over the place.
All over the place.
In a good way. I'm just saying.
It's in a good way. Yeah, that's what I try to think. Like everybody's feeling their own thing. Like that's I can't put them in a box,
right?
But then we can always say like that's what girls show offs for. Like do your thing on that time,
right.
So there's opportunity for that to show your style and show what your spirit and do that. So but that's just something that has to come back, and it takes time to do that, and it also takes like coming together and not like telling them how to dance, like something set time away.
Well, I always like to do at the end of this is, if you have, since you brought your stick, is there a favorite song you like to sing for us today?
I'll sing a song. So I was trying to think of which song to sing on the way over here. I sing kind of loud, so.
Oh, yeah, it's okay. Well,
you know how to rock?
Yeah. No.
Oh, come on, I say. Okay, So I'll do one with no rock then.
Okay.
A warm-up song.
Okay.
Okay, so a yoke, that's what we call a sitting down song.
Okay.
So this song comes from Kashaya. I was taught by Julie Hubble, who isn't Kashaya, but she sat and learned from different women from Kashaya. So she taught me this song, and it's become a crowd favorite.
Okay.
Let's hear it go.
Okay.
Yuki sopa hite ni o ho he niche ya ha Yuki sopa hite ni o ho he niche ya ha Yuki sopa hite ni o ho he niche Yuki sopa hite ni o ho he niche ya ha hey.
Oh,
thank
you, Bernadette. Well, I'm glad you came out here and took the time. I know you live further away from here. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
I know you just through by name, and I'm glad that I knew that we would kind of know each other anyway when we got here. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you for everybody for listening. And this will be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you very much.
Oh.
Thank you all for tuning in to the Fight for Existence podcast. If you guys want to keep up with the podcast in general, what you could do is follow the social media account. The Instagram account is going to be Fight for Our Existence. Again, that's Fight number 4 Our Existence. Go ahead and give that a follow. And if you guys have any questions for us, or you guys would like to be on the podcast, in the Instagram there's a link. Go ahead and click that. No matter what kind of platform you guys listen to this podcast on, there's always that plus or that follow button. So go ahead and click that so you guys can get notifications when we upload our next episode. And if you guys are listening on Spotify, what you can do is go ahead and rate the show. And if you guys are only listening on Apple Podcasts, what you can also do is write a review for the show. Thank you all for tuning in to the Fight for Existence podcast, and we will talk to you next time.